So then he says, if you're not capable of doing this, because it's very difficult and it's arduous, the arsa is, it's the threshold of the house. So what he's saying is that he's using that as an analogy for the lower aspects of the self, because that's only your threshold. It's to get you to the higher self. So if you're not capable of cleaning up the threshold of your house from its pollutants, the anjas, the foul things, and to discipline its transgressors, the tughat, and to train its animals and its predatory beasts, then at least don't be incapacitated from guarding yourself from becoming soiled with those foul things. وعن الاحتراس من أن تفترسك سباعه, and guarding yourself from being consumed by those predatory beasts, or to become captive of its transgressors. حتى إذا لم تكن غالبا لم تكن مغلوب. So at least it's a balance. You're neither overwhelmed by them, nor are you overwhelming them. So they're there and you're dealing with them. And this is where he's going to get into his analogy. So you're neither ghalib nor maghlub. And this is what he's talking about there is the path of salvation. At least, if you're going to have your appetites, if you're going to, don't let them destroy you. If you can't control them in the way that you should, if you can't overcome them, at least don't let them destroy you. فصار الناس في ذلك بين ثلاثة أصناف. So there are three categories of people here. صنف لم يفعل ما أمر به ولم يؤدي حق الإيالة متهاون فيما فوض إليه وجرح وأسر فصار عند ربه مع كونه مجروحا مأسورا ملوما مخذولا. So the first group are those who do not do what they were commanded to do, nor do they fulfill the duty of the iyala. The iyala is like it's like the authority of the government. So when you have authority over yourself and you're not fulfilling the duty that you have. متهاون فيما فوض إليه. So tahawun is you're just lackadaisical about it. You're not doing what you should be doing, what has been handed over to you as a responsibility. You're not fulfilling that responsibility because of your laziness. So then you become wounded and captive. So these lower appetites wound you and capture you. And so with your Lord, you become majruhan, ma'suran, injured, captive, maluman, blameworthy, makhdulan, and in a state where you don't have tawfiq. You're in a state of providential loss. And then the second group, the second category, صنف فعل ما أمر به وأدى حق الإيالة فصار عند ربه مأجورا مشكورا. They fulfill the rights of vicegerency that they've been given. And with their Lord, they are rewarded and shown gratitude. والصنف جدا تارة وقصر تارة جد تارة عفوا وقصر تارة. And the third category, they're serious sometimes and they fall short other times. فجرح وجرح. Sometimes they parry and they get the strike against the lower self, and other times they're stricken. غَرَبَ وَغُلِبَ. Sometimes and so this is harb sijal. This is called nafs al-lawwama. So he's talking about nafs al-amara bisu, nafs al-mutma'inna, and nafs al-lawwama. These are the terms that the Quran gives for these. So وَغَرَبَ وَغُلِبَ فَهُوَ كَمَا قَالَ تَعَالَى وَآخَرُونَ اعْتَرَفُوا بِذُنُوبِهِمْ خَلَطُوا عَمَلًا صَالِحًا وَآخَرَ سَيِّئًا. So these are those who admit their sins. They have mixed righteous deeds, virtuous deeds with vicious deeds or deeds lacking virtue. عَسَى اللَّهُ أَن يَتُوبَ عَلَيْهِمْ. Perhaps God will give them repentance. إِنَّ اللَّهَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. Verily God is oft repenting, merciful, oft turning to his his creation and merciful. وقال بعضهم الإنسان إذا اعتبر مع قوة التخيل وقوة الغضب وقوة الشهوة فمثله كمثل من بلي في سفره بصحبة ثلاثة اضطر إليهم حتى لا يمكنه أن يتفصى عنهم ويقضي سفره من دونهم فهو معهم كما قال الشاعر. So now he's going to strike an analogy of, we could look at a human being as in terms of إذا اعتبر من قوة التخيل, in terms of the imaginal potentiality of the human being, and also the قوة الغضب and قوة الشهوة, the irascible and the appetitive aspects of his soul. So the analogy is the analogy of somebody who has gone on a journey and they're tested. The buliya fi safri. So there's an ibtila. They have a trial of having to travel in the company of three, and they can't get out of their company. Utturra ilayhim. They're compelled to travel with them. حتى لا يمكنه أن يتفصى عنهم. He won't be able to distance himself from these travelers. ويقضي سفره من دونهم, and to travel without them. فهو معهم. So he's with them, whether he likes it or not. This is the journey. So he's talking about the journey of life. You're on this journey of life, and you're going to have these three companions, and you're just stuck with them on this journey. So what are they? And then he quotes the poet. وَمِن نَكِرِ الدُّنْيا, this is Mutanabbi, I think. Yeah, Mutanabbi. وَمِن نَكِرِ الدُّنْيا عَلَى الْحُرِّ أَنْ يَرَى عَدُوًّا لَهُ مَا مِنْ صَدَاقَتِهِ بُدُّ. This is a very famous line that Arabs, educated Arabs, almost all know. So from the unfortunate aspects of this lower world for a free man, for a hur, and the Arabs meant by hur, they didn't mean like what we mean today. They meant somebody who was, dignified and in control of his self. And yara aduwan, that he has to consider an enemy that he has no way out of his friendship. Because in life you're going to have people, it's like a boss that you can't stand, but you have to act friendly and be. This is life. You're going to have people, even in your own family, you're going to have somebody who just is really difficult, right? It's the uncle, nobody wants to come over for the holiday, but he comes anyway, and everybody is nice. So that's what he's talking about. So now he's going to use that as an analogy for these appetites that we have, these faculties in our own souls. فَيَا نَكِدَ الدُّنْيَا مَتَى أَنْتَ نَازِحٌ عَنِ الْحُرِّ حَتَّى يُقَارِبُهُ ضِدُّ. So he's saying, the trials of this world, when will you depart from this free man so that he can find the opposite, approach what's opposite, which is there's a Sudanese scholar who talked about the mar'a nakidiyya. So the mar'a nakidiyya, he said, people shouldn't be so upset about having a spouse. It goes male or female, a spouse that just gives you a hard time all the time. Because he said, actually, there's a lot of benefits to that mar'a nakidiyya. He said, one, you're always doing dhikr. Because you're like, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. And then he said, and then you're always visiting your relatives. Because he said, I have to go out. So he goes on about that. So, فَوَاحِدٌ أَمَامَهُ هُوَ لَهُ رَقِيبٌ يَحْفَظُهُ وَعَيْنٌ تَكْلَأُهُ لَكِنَّهُ مَلِقٌ مُبَاهِتٌ مُمَوِّهٌ يلفق الباطل تلفيقا ويخترق الزور اختلاقا فيخلط الكذب بالصدق والخطأ بالصواب. And he's a beautiful writer. He's a very, very nice writer. He has a 5-volume work called the Muhadarat of the Udaba, which is really stunning. But he was very, very erudite in Arabic literature. So you'll find his style is, and he uses a lot of unusual words. So he says one of these enemies, he's in front of you. So he's going ahead of you. And he's raqib. He's on guard. He's watching to protect you. وَعَيْنٌ تَكْلَأُهُ. And he's like a spy, because ayn means eye, but it also means spy. So he's like a spy who's there to takla'uhu, is also to protect, to guard. لَكِنَّهُ مَلِقٌ. So he has tamalluq, is obsequiousness. Mubahitun. He's he's just, bahata yubahituhu is to like tell lies, but it's lies that, they're hard to believe. Mumawwihun. Mumawwah is a gilded, like in the Maliki fiqh they have mumawwah. In Khalil he talks about the plates that are gold plated. So mumawwah. So the mumawwih is the one who, he just embellishes things. He's not being straight. He's hiding something. And then yulafiqu al-batila talfiqa. So he's fabricating and conjuring up falsehoods. Yakhtariqu az-zura ikhtilaqa. Again, is another way of saying yulafiq. Yakhtariqu. I mean, khalaqa in Arabic means to create, but when it's applied to the human, it means to lie. So ikhtalaqa means to lie. It's because we don't create. We're not creators. That's why creative writing is one of the worst titles for a course ever. Because everything is mimesis. It's all mimesis. We're not creative beings in that way. What we are is skillful and imaginative. So in that way, but creation, to create, is Allah's alone. He's the creator. He's the Khaliq. It's an unshared name. So then he says, so he mixes truth with falsehood. He mixes error with sawab, with what's correct. And then the second one, an yaminihi, is on your right side. Batishun za'irun. So batish is like somebody who's like a thug. Za'irun is malicious. So he's like a malicious thug. Yahmihi min a'adihi. He protects him from his enemies. لكنه كثير ما يغويه فيبور عامره. But he can lead him astray and destroy what's يبور عامره. The amir is it's what's cultivated. So he can destroy what you've cultivated. ويهيج هائجه. And he can instigate you. فلا يقمعه النصح. He's not controlled by sound advice. ولا يطأطئه الرفق. And he won't bow down to gentleness. كأنه نار في حطب. He's like fire in dry wood. أو سيل في صبب. Or he's like a flash flood coming down from an elevation.